Hi guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. This episode is a new one. Well, I say it's a new one. I have a guest, and I've had a guest before. I had a guest in the form of my youngest daughter. So he's not my first guest, unbelievably, but he is a mate of mine. He's a friend of mine who does his own podcast, and I've invited him to join me on my podcast, the Sit Rep podcast. So welcome. This episode is going to be a two-parter. This is episode number 7. Unbelievably, we're at episode number 7 now. And I said at the beginning of this series, I said at the beginning of season 1, I was going to do 8 episodes and take a short break before I start season 2. This is episode number 7. This is going to be a two-parter, so 7 and 8. And I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce my guest. His name is Nathan, and we're going to go through some subjects that are close to both of our hearts. Nathan is a keen cyclist. He's a keen Zwifter. He has his own YouTube channel where he streams and records his Zwift races. I'll put a link to his channel in the description wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it be online, on my YouTube channel or on my Patreon. I very much appreciate that. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel there. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself in a sec, by the way, but I just wanted to give him a bit of an intro because I've asked Nathan to come on so as we can talk through some exciting subjects in the form of Zwift. We're going to talk through some of his own exploits around Zwift. We're going to talk through some of the things he's achieved from a fitness perspective. And we're also going to talk about the Tour de France, the Olympics, and some other bits and pieces as well. Two mates having a chat about cycling. I said at the beginning of this season that it's going to be 8 episodes where I'm going to talk about subjects that I find motivational, things I enjoy, some of the things that don't make it into my YouTube videos. My YouTube videos are quite heavily scripted. I've done something today. I've actually written a bullet point list of things that we're going to talk about from a subject perspective, and Nathan's come on to help me do that. So without further ado, I will say Nathan is an Antipodean friend of mine, so he's from down under. I'm going to let him introduce himself. So please allow me to introduce you to Nathan, the Kraken Krake.
G'day, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is going to be fantastic. I'm really quite excited about this. This is really good. I'm used to being on the other side of podcasts and videos. So being in the passenger seat now while you're doing all the driving is going to be quite fun for me. But you are correct. Yep. So I'm from Australia. I live in Melbourne. For those that know, that's in Victoria, down the southern states, and as I was saying before, it's quite cold here. So it's winter over here. It's classic Zwifting weather. So it's been good being inside, but outside has been quite miserable and cold. So I'm happy to be indoors riding, which is lots of fun. But no, I'm really looking forward to this. This is the first time I've been invited to join someone else on their podcast, and this is going to be lots of fun.
So you've been unleashed from the shackles of being a producer of your own podcast, and you're allowed to be a guest now. How does that feel?
Yeah. I don't have to stress about things. I don't have to stress about what people are going to say, pushing the buttons, making sure that I'm recording. I don't have to worry about all these sorts of things.
So Nathan's just alluding to the fact that we started the podcast about 15 minutes ago, and I forgot to hit record.
which is classic.
If you was ever in any doubt of the professionalism level on my podcast versus his, trust me when I say he's not known for any technical glitches at all on his podcast.
Oh no, that's totally incorrect. In the early days, it was we would do, like, with a guest on. I thought we'd be streaming for like 15, 20 minutes. We've done the intro, we've gone through a few videos, and I've looked down and we're not live. It's like the button to go live hasn't been pressed. I'm like, oh no. So that's happened a few times. So yeah, no, definitely we're not immune to those kind of technical glitches.
Yeah, the gremlins in the system. So it's probably a good point, actually. I had it on my list. I'm being professional, guys. I actually have a list of things to keep us on track to ensure that we don't go off on tangent, which inevitably will happen. But one of the points I do have is your podcast. So your podcast is in the drops. I've been lucky enough to be a guest presenter on your podcast, yes, which I very much enjoyed. Anybody that enjoys Zwift, anyone that enjoys cycling, anyone that enjoys tactics around winning races on Zwift specifically, I 100% recommend checking out In the Drops. Nathan is the show's producer. Did you want to give any listeners a rundown of your show?
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. You're very kind. Yeah, so we started this. So in the drops was an idea that we had, oh gosh, over a year ago now, to do something that was community focused and sort of community driven. And so I got together with a good friend of mine over in Adelaide, Andrew Hutto Hudson, and we sort of had a little bit of a few brainstorming sessions about this and what it might be and how it might look, and then he recommended that Rob Bain from the UK, who, if anyone is into Zwifting, has probably come across either one of his videos or been involved in something that he's been involved in. And so we ended up getting together, and the three of us sort of figured out this sort of podcast that's grown and changed and morphed over the last year and a bit into what it is now, which is hopefully still focused on community. We do showcase lots of Zwifters who either record or stream their rides. We showcase or try to showcase their rides. We talk a lot about what's going on in Zwifting, but other times where we've had just amazing guests, like we've had 45 different guests, including yourself, Ryan. You're one of our earlier guests, and then you came back and spent some time with us. But we've had, it's been incredible. We've had some just amazing stories. We might touch on some of these people later on, but yeah, no, it's just been, I didn't expect it to become what it is. Like I was like you, I thought if we get 4 episodes done, great. And then we'll sort of see what happens. And then it's, we're at 57 episodes now. So
it's unbelievable. 57.
We're lining up Ed Laverack for this coming week. So been chatting with him, and we've got to have him on the show too. So yeah, no, it's been 57 episodes, man. It's it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and the thing is that your podcast is the reason why we met. You reached out to me. It feels like forever ago now, and I came on and I was a guest and waffled on your show. You allowed me the opportunity to talk about some of the events and challenges I've done. And that's ultimately how we ended up meeting, which is one of the reasons I wanted to invite you to join me for a bit more of a deep dive into some of the stuff you've got up to, because I know you're heavily into Zwift, which is ultimately why you set the podcast up.
That's right. Yeah. Well, there is a little bit of a story behind that, but I'm not sure if, and you can probably edit this out, but the initially it was me just streaming my races or my riding in Zwift. And that came about, unfortunately, because of, through a divorce. So it just worked out that I don't see my kids, and so I was thinking of ways in which I could possibly still be around that maybe one day they would either come across or look for or discover. And so rather than letting all the negativity get to me, I thought, well, I might as well just put stuff on YouTube. And then I was sort of wondering, well, what would I put on YouTube? And I'd always had a little bit of a fascination, kind of like yourself, on trying to create stories. My videos I've done outdoors are nowhere near as engaging and as entertaining as yours are. And I've actually learned a lot from what you've done. So I'm looking to try and impose some of those techniques and skills that you've demonstrated so well in your videos into some of the things I'm trying to do. And so that's how it came about. And so I started streaming my rides, started streaming races. Initially in the first few streams, a couple of dozen streams, I didn't even talk because who wants to listen to me talk? And then it kind of grew from there, and then ultimately it ended up sort of other Zwifters who streamed. You kind of gravitate toward each other, and then that's where the podcast came about. And so I've just met so many incredible people. It's just been outrageous. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about the reasons that you started on Zwift. I didn't actually know that, so I appreciate you sharing that. It's a tough one. I started on Zwift when I was looking to find other ways to lose weight, if I'm honest. I joined the gym and the reason why I joined the gym was because I was doing a lot of running, and you kind of plateau when you do an event, when you do cycling, running, whatever it is you're doing, you kind of plateau a little bit, and your muscles get used to it, your body gets used to it. So I was trying to mix things up by doing some cross training, and I got really bored in the gym. I started on the exercise bike. I loved every second, and that ultimately led me to buy my own exercise bike at home, because I thought, why am I paying all this all this money per month? I can be doing this at home, and it will, any money I spend on the equipment, I will get back eventually by saving, not going to the gym. Anyway, cut long story short, I completely fell in love with Zwift. I've said this in videos, so anyone that wants to know more about that, then just watch any of my Zwift videos. And so mine's probably a little bit different. I fell in love with Zwift because of by accident. It was a complete accident. Whereas you was a cyclist first, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. So I got into cycling, I think when I turned 40, and so I gave up smoking. I was overweight. I wasn't fit. I thought I was fit. I'd go to the gym once a week, and I thought that was enough. And so I got into cycling. My ex at the time had gotten into cycling, and so she encouraged me to do something. And so we went and bought a second-hand bike. I got a giant TCR, for those that know their bikes. So a giant TCR, which is sort of your all-rounder kind of giant bike, and with some Juro, so it was properly kitted. It was a good bike, and so that's what I started my journey on. And for the first couple of years, I think I rode it about 5 times, and so it kind of just sat in the back room, and then progressively sort of got out more and did more, and sort of discovered different local riding groups that you could join, and did lots of solo riding around Melbourne, and and so that's how it kind of grew. And then around 2016 or 15, something like that, we went to we had like a holiday around Australia Day, which is in January each year. And so we went up to the mountains for a week or two. And my best mate happened to be up there at the same time. And so we took our bikes up, and there's an event that's held. I'm not sure it's been held anymore, actually, but it was on at the time, and it had been on for a number of years, called the Audax. And so we ended up doing just out of all the different events you can do, and they range from 60 kilometers up to 320 kilometers. And so my wife at the time and we just did the easy 60 kilometer. And when I say easy, it wasn't the easiest thing I've ever done. It was one of the hardest things, but we grew from that. And so we just did over a little climb over to another town and then back again. And that took me like half a day. It was for 60 kilometers and maybe 1,500 meters of climbing. It took about 8 hours. It was incredible. It was just so unfit. Anyway, so caught up with my mate who had gone to do the same event, unbeknownst to me, because I knew he was into cycling, but I didn't know how much. And he goes, "Oh yeah, no, I've done the 140K." And I went, "Oh, wow, that's incredible." And so I'd kind of gotten the cycling bug by this stage. And he goes, "Oh, look, you should come back next year. We'll train a bit. We'll come back next year, and we'll do the same one I've done, and then we'll do the proper 250 kilometer." That began my cycling journey, and so started riding more. We came back next year. I did up to Falls Creek. That's one of the ski resorts in Victoria, which I think it's about 1,200 meters or something like that. So we did that, and he goes, "Right, okay, we've done that now. We're going to train for the 250." Okay, so the 250 is what they call the classic. So it's the second hardest loop ride in Australia that you can do.
What's the first hardest?
The 320.
Oh, okay.
It's the same 250, but they add
Just
on another
longer.
mountain to go up and down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I went, "Oh, okay, let's just do this," because I think you might have said this in one of your podcasts or your videos where naivety just it's the one thing I think that allows people to go ahead and do something without realizing how difficult it's actually going to be. It's like, how hard can it be?
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Yeah, I was feeling confident. I'm sort of getting fitter. We'd been out to the local mountains in Dandenong, which is about 50 k's out of Melbourne, and so we've been doing a bit of riding out there, but not a lot. And so we looked at the map and we kind of went and checked it out. And we went, okay, let's do this. So we aimed for 2017, I think, is when we ended up doing it. And so the Audax 250 is 250 kilometers with 5,000 meters of climbing. And so essentially you start out in this local town called Bright, and you go out to Mount Hotham, which is amazing. It's like about 1,500 meters of elevation on that one, but some really tough pinches, like, 15, 17% on some of the corners. And then you head out past Hotham, you go around the backcountry, and then you come up the back of Falls. Now, the back of Falls is so nasty that they've actually got, the start of it is called WTF Corner, and that's how it's known, is WTF Corner.
That's the official term, is it?
That's the official name of it.
That's because that's what everyone shouts as they go around it.
Yeah, because you've done 180 Ks, and then all of a sudden you've got to take this 10 kilometer, 10% climb in the summer heat. And whilst you're up in the mountains, you think, oh, it's not too bad. But, in the shade, it was still about 20 degrees. And so we slugged through that, and there aren't any sag wagons. So there's no one coming to pick you up if you just can't complete it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to do this. And one of the things one of the criteria is that they say that you've got to be able to make your own way back, and that you've got to have done the other rides leading up to this one beforehand and show that you've completed them, because you just don't. This is not a Sunday afternoon coffee ride. This is like a full day. And so we got up to Falls Creek. That's the second big climb. Then we came down into Mount Beauty. I think the temperature hit about 44 degrees Celsius when we came through there, and I was done. I was cooked. I think.
How far into the race was this?
This was we're probably around about the 220k mark.
Right. Okay.
So we've done probably 3,500-4,000 meters of climbing. I've done 220 kilometers. We've been on the road since 4 a.m. So you're up at 3. You haven't really slept much because you're thinking of, how hard is this going to be? What's going to go wrong? Am I going to do it? All that sort of, anxiousness that you get. Have I got all the right gear? Have I eaten enough? Have I eaten too much?
Yeah.
And we had planned it out, we had spare, we have 4 spare tubes. We had a spare tire. We had a chain link remover. We had duct tape. We had about 3 different toolkits because we're basically riding together. And so we figured if we were going to have anything, we would have enough to try and resolve it and get across.
I love the fact that you have to be self-sufficient on the event.
Your fan dance, you've got to take all your stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of events don't do that. There's loads of events that just, they have the backup. They have the broom wagon. There's an opportunity. There's checkpoints that you can pull out at. There's minibuses that will bring you home.
Yeah, no. Well, they had checkpoints, so they've got refueling stations along the way.
Yeah.
So that was certainly the case.
Yeah.
But there's no one. If you're halfway up the back of the mountain and you suffer a mechanical or you just can't complete it, you're done. That's it. You've got to find a way home. And a lot of those spaces didn't have mobile phone access either, so there was just no mobile phone coverage. So so that was certainly quite the ride. And so we got into Mount Beauty. I think I got in there about we started at 4, about 2 p.m. And then we had Tonga Gap, which is the last little climb. When you look at the map, you think, oh, that's just a little bump. But yeah, so that was...
After 4,000 meters,
tough.
anything is painful.
Yeah, it was
I
tough.
can imagine.
And so I had hot feet. I had hot foot in both my feet. Whereas if anyone's ever experienced this and you've done a lot of riding or you do a big ride, you can get this sensation at the bottom of the ball of your foot, like your foot's on fire. So I had that. All the water stops that we'd gone to, all the water was just hot. So it wasn't great. And so eventually got over Toowoomba Gap, and then basically it's all downhill back into Bright. So suffered through the rest of it and managed to clock that in at just under 12 hours. I think it was 11 hours and 59 minutes I did
Wow.
it.
That's amazing.
And it was, as I was messaging you before, it's single-handedly the hardest thing I've ever done up until now as well. Like I've not done anything that's been harder than that.
Yeah.
Mentally.
What year was this?
So this was in 2017.
Right. Okay. So are you going to? So would you do it again?
There had been talks about doing the 320.
Wow. Okay.
But it just, so the 320 is essentially you finish the 250 and then you keep going through Bright out the other side, and then you go up Mount Buffalo and then back. Now, don't get me wrong, Mount Buffalo is one of my favorite climbs. Like it's a really awesome, beautiful, scenic climb with some nice hairpins and some fast spots. And the view over the whole valley when you get to the top is fantastic. But after 250 kilometers, doing another, 80 odd didn't seem like something that seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that yet. And unfortunately, what has since happened, I think the last year or two, the Audax has stopped. So they're no longer holding it. Now, it shouldn't stop me from going ahead and doing it anyway. But I'm less inclined to go out and do it because
without the pit stops though, that turns it into a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it's a big day out.
Yeah.
But also what I found was the training too so we did 6 months of doing somewhere around we're doing 200 kilometers each weekend in rides all around Victoria. So we'd start out in Melbourne and then we go up to the middle of Victoria, out to the west, out to the east, all these different places. And if we weren't doing those kinds of long distance rides, we were up in the mountains just doing repeats.
Yeah.
And it takes it's a big ask, especially with, if you've got family, you've got kids, that kind of thing. It's a big ask to every weekend you're sort of out doing that. And then when you're not cycling, you're zapped. You're sort of just on the couch comatose, just staring out to the distance. So
events like that. I mean, I've done quite a few, endurance events, and events like that, they consume you. They consume everything. You have no social life. All of your planning, all of your money, all of your time. It just goes into them. They just suck them up like a black hole. Yeah.
And then here's something that's funny. So we were a week out from going to Brighton. So because you start to get nervous. I don't know if you've felt this, but you start to get nervous. Like you don't want to, on one of your training rides leading up to the event, you don't want to do an injury. You don't want to sort of do something stupid and sprain an ankle or whatever, So we're around that. We're about a week out and we're just doing our last 200k ride from Port Melbourne down to Arthur's Seat, around the bay basically of Melbourne, and then back again. It's about 200k's, about 180k's. Anyway, so we've done that. That's all good. It's been a wonderful day. We've come back to Port Melbourne. We're in the main street of Port Melbourne, and we've put our bikes just outside this cafe that we intend to go into and sit down at the window where our bikes are and have a coffee. So we've propped the bikes up in front of the shop of the window. The window is sort of the top half of it's open. There's a little sort of a bar sort of set up so you can look out in the street from inside the cafe. Our bikes are literally, you could reach over and grab the bike. Anyway, so we're sitting there having our coffee, and I don't know what occurred to me, but I went, hang on, mate, because I turned to Steve, he was with me, and I turned to Steve and said, where's your bike? And we sort of looked at each other, and we both looked over the bar, and his had gone.
Someone's taken it.
Right from under our noses.
Oh my God.
We must have stared at the guy as he's walked past.
Watched him do it.
Put his hand on the handlebar and just walked off with it. And like there was like a $15,000 Pinarello Dogma F8. Yeah,
Nothing
no, it
worse.
wasn't.
Did he get it back or?
No, never saw it again.
Oh my God.
And so we're a week out. All the accommodation's booked. We've paid for everything. It's all done. So he found himself scrambling to go and find another bike in time. So he had to pull out another, 10,000 or something like that, or 15,000 to go and find another bike. And then I had the same issue. My bike wasn't stolen, but I had booked my bike in for a quick maintenance check before leaving. and we found a crack in the seat stem. So on the Giants, the seat post is all integrated. You can't adjust it. You can't pull it out like a well, what would you pull out? Like a pipe, like a bit of metal.
Yeah.
And so this is all part of the frame, and it's all carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And so we found that in the seat stem, there was about a 1.5 inch crack just coming down the seat stem. And I said to the guy, "Oh, what do you think? You reckon it would be okay?" He goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" Yeah. And he said,
"What are you doing?" I'm doing a whole day's endurance event, 4,000 meters.
5,000 meters of climbing, descending. All that. He goes, "Nah." He looked at me like I was stupid. Like I had two heads. He goes, "Nah, I would not do that if I was you." And I went, "Oh shit!" And so I found myself in the same boat of scrambling to try and find a replacement bike, which I did find. But again, you got to cough up, quite a bit of coin to get that to happen.
See,
so,
this is the advantage. I'm a huge advocate of cycling. I love cycling. If you'd have said that to me a year ago, I'd have called you crazy. But this is the advantage of running. Like, unless you fall over and, twist an ankle, you've got no risk of equipment going wrong, with the exception of maybe a water bladder because you're running a long way. This is the only downside to cycling is you are hugely reliant on your equipment.
Oh, it's like I love it. And I always find myself attracted to sports that are stupidly expensive, like skiing.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why I do it. And I think to myself, runners, man, they've got it easy. All you have to have is a pair of shoes and then you're good to go. But
so you say that, but you can fall down the running rabbit hole as well. I mean, trainers don't quite reach the level of the bike frames or even the wheels. I mean, wheels. When I got into cycling, I didn't even realise how expensive a wheel can be.
Yeah.
I was looking at buying some road tyres for my new bike, my new Revolve bike, because I've got a gravel bike and I bought gravel tyres that came with it.
How's that going, by the way? How's your bike going?
Awesome, really good. The best thing I've ever bought. I mean, I've got no experience with bikes, so I've got nothing really I can compare it to. I've had a decathlon bike in the past. Decathlon, I don't know if you have decathlon in Australia. But they're like it's hard to explain. They do high end bikes. I mean, Decathlon were at the Tour de France, so they have their own brand, which is Van Rysel. Yeah. So they do really high end TT endurance, road bikes, gravel bikes. But Decathlon's a shop you can go to where you can buy a road bike for like 250 quid. Really basic bike, and it's just great for entry level. They do loads of entry level stuff. Like you can walk in there and just any sport, if you want to do fishing, running, cycling, anything you wanted to do.
Oh, okay. So it's like a sports.
Yeah, like a warehouse. Sort of, it's like
we've got Rebel Sport over here. So
yeah.
So I know what you mean.
I had a Decathlon bike before, and it's just chalk and cheese. Like the Rebel bike is unbelievably light. And I do this thing where when I'm on the bike, I'm going off on a tangent now. This isn't on my list, but
let's go for it.
Yeah, I do this thing when I'm on the bike. It scares me. Is when I'm going uphill, I'll sprint, right? And I've got no computer, bike computer, so I'm dropping 2,000 watts. I can say that because I'm not measuring it. It's 150. I'm dropping these huge watts sprinting uphill.
These big watt bombs.
Yeah, these big watt bombs, and my front tire comes off the floor.
Yeah.
Because the bike's so light, I pull up on the handlebars as I sprint because that's what I do on Zwift. So my watt bike, which weighs a ton, I had to get the floor reinforced. I didn't, I'm joking, but it is really heavy. So when I sprint on my watt bike on Zwift, I pull on the handlebars and it doesn't move. I mean, the bike may as well be bolted to the floor. I do it on my Rebel bike because it's so light, the front wheel comes off. And it scares the living daylights. Like my heart goes, the adrenaline goes, because I'm in my head, I'm falling through midair, like I've jumped off a cliff. Every single time my wheels leave the floor. So and I'm known for falling off my bike. Anyone that's seen my cycling videos,
done that. Yeah. Fortunately, touch wood, I've never fallen off yet.
Have you never fallen off?
No, I don't think I have.
You have to have. There's no way you've done endurance events. I'm not having that. There's no way you've done those endurance events and not fallen off.
Not fallen off.
Oh my god!
I think the closest thing I came to was we're doing repeats out of Dandenong, so just up and down climbs. And it was like 6 a.m, and I'd been out there a bit early, so I'd already done like 1 or 2 climbs. And Steve turned up, and he was coming up as I was descending, and so I'm in like my biggest gear descending.
Yeah.
And then I see him come up, so I brake and do a U-turn, but I forget to change gears. And so as I come around to start to go back uphill again, I can't turn the pedals. And I'm locked into the cleats, and I kind of laid it over. But I think that's the closest thing I've come to.
Did you come off, or did you manage to get your foot out?
I managed to cut. It was ugly. It was ugly. I sort of half fell, half pulled my foot out, and kind of tripped over.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. No. Steve did a great one. He did a full. We're doing Beach Road one day with this fast group out of Footscray, and so we averaged probably about 40 k's an hour, and he hit his front brakes. Something happened. I think either a car pulled out or something happened anyway. And the guys ahead of us stopped abruptly. And so he hit his front brakes and did a complete 360 in the air.
Oh, my God.
And landed on his back, it was incredible. We all looked at it and thought, oh, man, he's going to hospital.
Yeah.
And he kind of got up and he had some scratches on his shoulders, on his back. And that was it. And he went, oh, okay, cool. And so we sat around for 5 minutes. Went,
got away with it. Wow.
Yeah, no, it was the most amazing thing I've seen. So
see, some of these bike crashes. I was watching the Tour de France, and I can't believe how much these cyclists go. I mean, these are professional cyclists. They're paid a fortune by their sponsors, and they go down. So I mean, Roglic, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, he goes down as much as I do. So if you're measuring professional cyclists on how many times they fall over, I am a pro elite cyclist.
Knocking on a contract door,
I am. I mean, if you take out watts and finish times and speed and everything else that goes with it, if you just go just on how many times you fall down, I mean, I am giving Roglic a run for his money.
Purely just on the amount of times you fall over.
Oh, unbelievable!
You've got it stitched up.
But you don't watch it in any other sport. You watch it. It gives people like me, hope for the future, because if you watch professional football, you watch, Usain Bolt in the 100 meters at the Olympics. Yeah. They don't fall over. They don't make mistakes. No. These are absolute elite. And then you watch, the only person that doesn't fall over seems to be is Pogacar. He is another level.
Well, he's always at the front.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one near miss, wasn't there? I think it was like, I can't remember what stage it was.
Yeah, he did take a little tumble.
Yeah,
would have been I think stage 9. I think.
Yeah, it was an early stage.
Yeah,
and he had a near miss.
But being in those pelotons, so I've only ever once been in a peloton like that.
Yeah,
be
amazing.
We're doing the Juro della Donna, which is a race in November here in Warburton, which is about an hour and a half out of Melbourne. And so Steve and I snuck into the front group. So this is actually a proper timed race where there's different tiers and levels, and they go off at different times. And so this had just been after, I think, the Audax, and we're all full of piss and vinegar. And we snuck into like one of the front groups. So we didn't, if anyone from the Juro is listening, we didn't pay. So sorry about that. But so we just sort of we're on our bikes and we watched the lead guys go out, and we just sort of jumped into them and went out with them. And it was fantastic. So for the first maybe 20 Ks, we were in this peloton with these guys, shoulder to shoulder, like maybe 10, 15 riders across in a group of maybe 150 riders. And that shit's scary. Like it was, I was even worried. And I've been cycling for ages by that time, and had honed all my listening skills. And when you're in a group, and you'll find this when you do more group rides, and you will, you begin to know exactly what's going on just by the gear changes around you. Mm. And so when people start shifting gears, you know that either it's slowing down, it's speeding up, and you hear all these things that you don't have to look at. And I'm just surrounded by those people, and all the elbows are starting to come out, and the shoulders are leaning into other riders, and this is stuff that I'm not used to. And I've got a rider in front of me, maybe a 20 centimeter gap between his wheel and my front wheel, and there's 2 riders either side, and like if someone's going down, there's nowhere to go.
Nothing
you're
you
going
can do
down
about
too.
It. Absolutely.
You're going over.
What would scare me the most about that, I'm picturing it in my head, and what would scare me the most isn't what someone else would do to cause me to go down, is what I would do to these other cyclists. Because because when I go down and I would take the entire, I'd be like a bowling ball. I would take a strike of them out.
Yeah. You know that all the people behind you are coming along for the ride with you,
and those in front, and probably a few spectators as well.
Yeah. So and eventually, I think I end up saying to Steve, I said, "Like, mate, I don't know if I can I don't know if I can do this for much longer." So we end up moving to the side, and then we kind of made our way to the back of it where it was a bit safer. So that was my one and only time sort of nudging it with semi-professional. So, but yeah, it's good. I've got a great picture out of it. So yeah. But so the cycling stuff is so I've been doing that, and then I know we're going off tangent there, but so did the Audax, did that in 12 hours. That was fantastic. Didn't get to sleep until I think about 4 a.m. the next morning, because we're just buzzing. You know, I guess you're so tired that you're not tired. I don't know if that makes sense. And I remember looking at my watches, maybe about 3 a.m. or something like that. And we'd just been up. We hadn't sort of been doing too much. We'd just sort of been sitting around just talking about it with other riders, because that's one thing that everyone does when they get back. They all sit together, especially if it's, in the brewery or in one of the bars there or outside, and discuss all the things that happened. And so we were sort of camping there. We had a caravan, and so we ended up sitting around with it, because we'd gone with about 3 other families as well, and they're all cyclists, and they're all participating in the Audax. One of the guys I know, it was like his 12th Audax. Like, he just does it. And so we're talking about all the different things and all our experiences and that type of stuff. So that was fantastic. And then was it January? So that was 2017. So someone said to me, "Oh, hey, there's a Revolve 24 event coming up in Adelaide." And I've been wanting to get over to see the Tour Down Under, which is the professional, tour that they have here in Australia. It's only 6 stages. It's not very long, but it takes in some pretty fantastic places around Adelaide. And I've been wanting to go and see that.
Yeah.
And this Revolve 24 was the first time it had been, I think, held in Australia. And they've got it over in the UK. You've probably heard about it. And essentially, they get like a racing track and they close it off, and then they just get cyclists to just ride around it for 24 hours. And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like a bit of fun. I'll do that, and then I'll go over to Adelaide. I'll do that over in Adelaide, but then I'll go and watch the tour and have a bit of fun. And so I was quite blasé about this one, because I'd done the Audax, and I was averaging somewhere around 250, 300 kilometers a week riding anyway. Right. Like, it'd be nothing to go and do a 180 or 150k ride just for the weekend, just for the fun of it, without having to, just worry about the training or nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Be like, oh, we'll just ride down to so-and-so, we'll have a coffee and we'll come back. And that's like 150Ks. And I thought, okay, I'll do the 12 hour. I wasn't going to do the 24 hour. I thought that was just a bit too much. And so I thought I'll do the 12 hour Revolve, the men's. And so that starts at 7 p.m. at night.
So what do you do?
Finishes at 7.
So you go round a racetrack?
A car racetrack.
So it's a loop. You don't venture
loop,
off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. You just keep going around and around and around until your time's
for 12 hours.
For 12 hours, yeah.
Right. And do you stop to take breaks, or is it just constant?
Yeah. You can do whatever your strategy is, and like there's teams and individuals. So for example, you've got teams. So teams would have like 8 riders, for example, and so they'd have 2 riders out in the course, and the other ones would be resting and sleeping.
Oh,
so they're the
okay.
ones who are doing
so it's like a relay.
The 24 hours.
Yeah.
But you could also do it individually as well.
Right. Okay.
So if you want to do the 24 hour, you could.
How did you do it?
You just come in. Well, I did the 12 hours.
Yeah.
And this is how blasé I was about it, right? I thought, 12 hours, that'll be easy. I just won't sleep.
Yeah.
I took a bit of food with me, but nothing significant. I didn't take anything to sleep on. I just had my bike, some clothes. I thought, and usually in Adelaide in January, it's super hot, like 40 degrees. I thought, I won't take anything warm with me. I'll rock up to this place. I'll get there at about 5 o'clock. I'll set up and make sure everything's okay. And then I'll do it. And then I'll finish at 7 a.m. in the morning, go get some breakfast and go home and have a sleep, or go to the hotel and have a sleep.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a great strategy. So it was like, I thought, okay, so I'll do like, what did I think? I thought I'd average about 30Ks now, which is what I did. And I'll do like 15 or 20 laps, have like maybe a 30-minute break, then do another 15 to 20 laps, have a 30-minute break. And then so it got to about, I don't know, like 2 a.m. in the morning. and I'm just stuffed. I'm tired, and I'm just cursing every decision I've made to do this. And so because there's the Bend Motor Park, which is in Adelaide, so it was sort of still in the midst of construction. So inside they didn't have very much. So I think I just said, stuff it. I went and stopped. I found a couch inside and basically slept on this little 2-seater couch for like 2 hours to try and get some rest.
Yeah.
And then forced myself at about, 4 a.m. to get back out, get back on the bike. It's like 10 degrees now. I'm cold. I'm shivering. It's dark. There's, just quiet people.
Sometimes, see, I
silently.
wouldn't have done the sleep. I would have gone straight through. Not because, look at me, how awesome I am. But I just find that when you sleep in between an event, sometimes it can just knock the stuffing out of you.
Oh yeah, no, it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it absolutely almost stopped me, and so it was that witching hour of 3 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was like, oh man, I just don't want to be here. I want to be anywhere else but here.
Yeah.
But got back on the bike and then finished it up. Came first, so there was only 3 of us doing the men's 12-hour solo. So came first.
You came first?
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
Got a great pic of it too somewhere.
Wow.
But at the start of it, I forgot this part. At the start of the ride, there was this big windstorm was coming through, and because the course had just been sort of surfaced, there was no grass, there's no nothing, and so we were just getting sandblasted for like the first 4 hours, and they had water trucks out there trying to wet down the dirt, so it just didn't keep killing us every time we came around. And so eventually 7 a.m. came around and finished up. So I did 91 laps. I averaged about 30 k's an hour.
So
I think it was about.
Where did the guy that came in second, how many laps did he do? I'm assuming that's how they measured it.
Yeah, or something like that. I think he was only, when I went in, I remember looking at the leaderboard thinking I had about 10 laps on him. And so I felt confident enough to go and have that little snooze. And then I think I came back out and he was like 6 laps behind. And then I think by the time I finished, I think I finished about 2 or 3 laps ahead of him. That was about it. So
you tactically played it quite well, because if you'd have gone too hard, then you could have burnt out and he could have caught you. And whether you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning, isn't it? So
that's exactly it. Yeah. So I got this trophy, and I got a backpack and a bottle of wine. So it was that the first time I've actually proper won something and got handed something. And they had a dais there that I stood on and they took photos. So that sounds like
a really good event. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, not that your 250 4,000 meter climb didn't sound
5,000 meters.
5,000 meters.
5,000 meters.
Oh, I took 1,000 meters off you. Don't
shortchange me. But I earned those 1,000 meters.
But those loops, sounds like fun. There's I
think Silverstone. I think they do it at Silverstone.
Right. Okay.
If you look up revolve24.com.
Yeah.
They have an event on every year, and it looks fantastic. Like, it looks like a lot of fun, and a lot of people really get into it.
Yeah.
And I've still got it going here. So it could be one of your new challenges coming up.
Yeah. Cool. The only thing with cycling that worries me, and I'm not adverse to a big challenge. I like a big challenge. It's literally the motto of my channel. I've got one planning. I'm planning one for this summer, actually. It's a bit of a short one. When I say short one, it's a big challenge, but it's a short-term thing that I was planning. It was only something I came up with last month.
Okay. What?
And shall I say it? I wasn't going to bring it up as it's not on my list, Nathan. This is the problem. We're going off on a tangent.
I want to know. I want to know.
So there's a challenge. Remind me to tell you why I think cycling challenges are going to be tough for me. Remind me to tell you that. Which is the reason we've kind of gone off on this tangent. The challenge that I'm looking at planning at the moment, and I'm doing it with my missus, is called the National Three Peaks. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'm not sure if there's an Australian version. It's very well known in this country.
Yeah, explain it to me. And then
so the National Three Peaks is the 3 biggest mountains in Britain. So you've got in Scotland, you've got Ben Nevis. In England, you've got Scafell Pike, which is in the Lake District, and then in Wales, you've got Snowdon. Anyone in the UK will know this is a challenge that people do. A lot of ramblers. It's not a running challenge. It's more of a mountaineering logistical challenge. So what you've got to do is you start at one of the 3 mountains. I mean, there is an official route that you can follow. Lots of people do it with guided tours, guided mountaineers. They do it under an official challenge, under an organised event organiser. I am going to do it on my own. So, I'm not doing this because I want a certificate. I just want to do it. I'll film it, I'll time myself and make sure that there's things in the video that show the timescale. And but you've got to do it in under 24 hours. And the reason why it's a logistical challenge as much as it is a physical challenge is that you start at the base of one of the mountains. So, for example, you start at the base of Ben Nevis in Scotland. You've got to get up to the top of the mountain, back down, and it's no small feat. These are challenging mountains. These are the biggest mountains in the country. Then you've got to drive from there to the Lake District, which is a 5-hour drive. And then you've got to get up Scafell Pike and back down, and then you've got to drive to Snowdon in Wales, which is a 6-hour drive. 4, 5, 6-hour drive. Jesus. And then you've got to get back up. You've got to get up Snowdon and back down. And you've got to do it all in under 24 hours. Now, for me, it's a different kind of challenge because it's the breaks in between, I think, will kibosh me. I think that would be Tracy will drive. And the plan was that I would have, a sleeping bag in the back of the van. We were going to hire a van, have all of our food, everything we need. When I'm running up the mountain and back down again, she'll be having a kip. So she's not getting tired on the drive. Otherwise, we're both awake for 24 hours. Now, it's all right for me. I say it's all right for me. The worst that's going to happen is I'll get lost up a mountain. Whereas with Tracy, she's falling asleep at the wheel, and I don't really want that. So
that's not a good thing.
Exactly. So lots of people do this as a team. It's not a solo thing. The more in the team, the better. So it's just going to be me and Tracy. But that was the challenge, and it's something which I was looking at doing either this summer. It's a summer challenge because you want as much daylight. I mean, you can do it in the winter. I don't know why anyone would want to go up these mountains in the winter.
Sounds even harder.
Yeah. I mean, these mountains, they're no small feat. They're a big challenge.
Well, I'm looking at the website now, and Ben Nevis is like 1,345 meters.
Yes.
Was it Scafell?
Scafell
Pike?
Yeah.
That's 978 meters, and Snowdon is 1,085 meters. That's some significant climbing.
Yeah, they're big. They're big old peaks. And individually, I'd happily do them. They'd be good fun. It's a logistical challenge of getting in between them, having some sleep, deciding whether I will sleep because, as I said to you already, that sometimes makes me feel worse. But yeah, that's the challenge. And
wow.
So the reason why I do challenges like this, I prefer because I love the idea of doing a big cycling challenge. There are, there's the classic in this country. I think the biggest cycling challenge in this country is John O'Groats to Land's End or Land's End to John O'Groats, which is the furthest southerly point, which is Land's End, to John O'Groats, which is the most northerly point in Scotland. So it's the entire length of Great Britain. So that was a challenge, but I just don't. The thing that worries me about doing a big cycling challenge, like the ones you mentioned around your Alpine Classic or the Revolve 24, the big challenge for me is the seat. The seat will just destroy my backside. Yep. And I just, if I run a long way, I can put plasters on blisters. I can change my boots. I can change my shoes. I can put new socks on. I can put talcum powder, Vaseline, everything that goes with running a long way. There's things you can do. Yeah. As soon as that seat starts making home in your internal organs, there is nothing you can do.
Yeah. No, I know.
You
exactly
can't. You can't change your seat, can you?
No. It's although there are obviously you can get different seats and you can probably pick seats that are going to be more suitable for a long day in the saddle. But
what I mean by that is you could start with that seat, you could change it halfway, but as soon any cyclist knows it. Yeah, I'm a big guy. I'm bigger than you. What am I? 10, 15 kg heavier than you?
10, I think. Yeah, about 10.
Yeah. It's I'm at a place where. Even though I've lost a shed load of weight, the biggest disadvantage I have with cycling, the thing that puts me off doing a big endurance event is just knowing that it's going to cut me in half.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can do to remedy it didn't say that right. There's nothing you do to fix it, because the only thing that you can do is just long hours in the saddle, and you just gotta do it. I remember I did the first time around the bay, which is around the bay in Melbourne is a 180, 200k bay ride that goes around, and it was the first sort of proper long event that I'd been training for. This is leading up to the Audax and stuff, and so it's all flat and it's really well looked after, and there's lots of stops and all these sorts of things. And I remember doing that and finishing it, and then we packed up and went home, and then we went to like the shopping center, and I was walking around like my ass was on fire, like just the bones of your bum. Yeah. It was just the clothes, the shorts I was wearing were just wearing against it, and it just felt like someone was rubbing sandpaper into it. And I remember stopping and having to go into a chemist and get some some cream. There was some, yeah, pretty much, yeah. And then had to go into the toilets of the supermarket and just sort of slather it on.
Yeah. There is a cream in this country. There's a cream in this country called bum butter. There is. Yeah. You can buy it, and it's specifically for cyclists. But I use anti-friction cream that I use for my running.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not friction. It is like, well, your backside's been pounded. It's no other way. And it puts me off. It puts me off. I know I'm never going to have that problem again, because you're right. The more you do it, the more your body gets used to it. When I did my half Everest attempt on Zwift, I didn't have any problems with that at all. I was in the saddle for 9 hours. It was boredom that kind of got me, because I'm in my office in my house for 9 hours on a Zwift bike.
Yeah, just staring.
Just staring at the Zwift screen. And I was a little bit tired, but it was more the psychological aspect, which I know that if I was out on the road and on the gravel paths and seeing different scenery, it would be a different aspect. So but then you got, I think the difference is you got all the bumps and the shimmies of the road and the potholes and all those sorts of things. And so I know there's been times there, like, you sort of 6 hours into a ride and you're not focused on something, and then when you go over a bump, you sort of take the shock on your legs. So you sort of lift your bum off the seat a little bit, and you take that shock on your legs and you sit down again, even if it's like for a split second. And then sometimes you just miss something, and then you go over a bump, and the seat gets you like right in the the crown jewels.
Yeah, well, no, but just like that spot between the crown jewels and the back door.
Yeah.
And it just nails you right there. You're like, oh.
And you feel it in your soul. So,
yeah. It just travels right up your spine. And it's not great. But you sort of get used to it. I can't give you any tips on how to make that better.
There are no solutions.
Every cyclist goes through it.
Anyone listening to this will have their version of what they do. And the comment section now is probably just going to be filled with how men can save their backsides when cycling, and women. It's just one of them things where it's what's put me off. I'm probably a slightly different. This is why I need to context it for anyone listening. When I first bought that bike from Decathlon, that really cheap 250 quid road bike with the worst saddle that's ever existed, I don't understand why. I'm going off on a tangent now. I'm going to have a little rant, but I don't understand why anyone would invent an entry-level bike. 250 quid is entry-level, right, by anyone's standard. And I know 250 quid is a lot of money to a lot of people. I'm not saying that. But if you're going to buy a bike and you're going to invest in a hobby, 250 quid is very much on the entry-level spectrum.
Yep.
So if you're going to invent a bike that is that price, for the love of God, please don't do a cheese grater saddle. Some of these racing saddles that cut you in half, because the people that are buying these bikes are not going to know what they're doing. And I bought this bike, and this bike cut me in half. Literally, I can't describe to you the pain. I did one 10-mile cycle, and I weighed, 25, 26 stone at the time. I'd already lost a load of weight. So I did this one 10-mile ride, because I thought, I used to do it as a kid, and I did that thing where overconfidence, didn't have the knowledge, overconfident. How hard can it be? It's a great thing. As soon as you're 5 miles from home, I've got to get home. I'm on my own.
Yeah.
There isn't anyone to come and pick me up. So I had to cycle home anyway, and I was too heavy to cycle out the saddle. So cut long story short, it destroyed me, and the pain I suffered for days. I didn't want to sit down. I had to sit on you can buy those cushions.
Those little inflatable donuts?
Yeah. I didn't get one. I needed that though. That's what I needed. That's how bad the pain was. So I think that's kind of put me off doing a long endurance ride, which I just need to get over.
I think it's those things you learn as well that you sort of go, oh yeah, I wish someone had told me about that.
Yeah.
So I remember that bike that I told you that had the crack in the seat stem that replaces that was sort of your all-arounder kind of a bit of endurance and a bit of aero. The bike I replaced it with was a full aero setup because I thought, I want to go fast, I want to win, I want to go fast. And so it's not typically designed for like, an 8 or 10 or 12 hour kind of, road riding.
Yeah.
And the seat it had was like literally, there was a bit of material over it sort of thing, but it was a streamlined racing seat. And I remember thinking the same thing. And so much so that it got to a point where I was having some functional issues down there. And I said, no, I've got to change this. I can't keep using this seat. I'm getting worried that, it's causing some actual, permanent damage.
You're never having kids again.
And not in a good way. Thankfully, it had two already. But just even, the practice runs, I was worried about not being able to do that either. And so I went into the local bike shop, Gareth, and said to him, I said, mate, I need a better seat. I'm doing this thing. I've got to get a better seat. I said, what have you got there? And he goes, well, what have you got? And I showed him the bike. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, what do they call it? They called it the sterilizer, that seat that I had.
Yeah.
I went, oh, that's great news. So I ended up replacing it with this really nice, a wider carbon seat, which was much more comfortable. So, and I still use it. I don't use it on my current bike at the moment because the one I've got is quite good as well. But he called it the sterilizer, and for good reason. Yeah. So I'm glad I got that changed. But yeah, I know exactly how you mean. Like those hard, racing seats as well are quite narrow. Yeah. And it can feel like it's like a Roman torture.
Yeah, it is medieval torture.
Yeah, that's it. Medieval torture. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So we spoke about your Alpine Classic. Yep. Is that what it's called? What did you call it?
Yeah, it's Audax.
The Audax.
So Audax is like an international organisation. And people do outrageous things as well, but yeah. So the Audax Alpine Classic, the 250.
So we spoke about that. We spoke about your Revolve 24.
Revolve, 24 hour,
24 hour or your 12-hour attempt where you came first. Awesome. So what have you got planned next?
I should say then that's where I got into Zwifting more, and after all that, and so with Zwifting, it was more about the thing. Look, the thing I love about Zwifting is the social side of it, the community side of it. And I was still doing a lot of riding outside, so it was something just to help. And because you got me thinking, I went back and had a look. The first time I ever rode on Zwift was at Steve's place, my mate's place, and it was back in December 2016. Was the first time I ever did it, and I think I did like the Epic Com and the radio tower as well. So I'm not sure what I thought about it because I can't remember doing it.
That was your first. That was your first. Introduction to Zwift was the Epic Com and the radio tower. Yeah,
exactly. but it wasn't bad because I've been used to doing all these rides, and so I thought, I'll show these Zwifters what I could do. Yeah. And I just had no idea. I thought, man, this is really hard. and so that was good. And then I didn't touch it again for about 2 years, and then I had my arm in a cast. I had damaged my left arm, and so I had it in a cast, and I couldn't go out on the road. And so I went and actually got a Wahoo Kicker V4, I think it might have been, the 2017 model. Yeah. And went to the local bike shop, picked it up, bought it back, set it up, and started getting into it. And then, and then even at that stage, I was only doing just meetups with a couple of mates. So Steve, he sort of convinced me to go ahead and get this. And so we were just doing meetups of a morning, and then I was still riding outside, and then it kind of progressed from there, and then I started racing. So I actually went and had a look at my first races, which were in D, and much like you, and then started doing okay. Didn't win anything, I think, in D, and then got catted up to C.
So you never actually got a D win before you got promoted?
I don't think I did. I think I might have gone back and done D because I went, oh, C is really hard. I just want to go back and do something that's easy so I can win something for a change because I just kept losing all the time.
C is really hard. It is really hard.
C is tough work, isn't it?
It is so tough.
You're new to C, aren't you?
I'm pleased you asked, Nathan. This is where your producer expertise in podcast comes in. So I'm pleased you've given me that little segue. I've just recently, it's going to be this week's video as well, by the way. So I've just recently been officially promoted to Cat C out of D. I can no longer, even if I wanted to, I can no longer race in D Cat. But I will say I have had, I think, 6 wins in Cat D.
Yes.
So I do have that now,
those.
which I worked. I found the wins in Cat D like buses. So I spent a whole year. I got to May of this year without a single win. I come close. I come second a couple of times. I'd had a few podium wins. I had a few Zwift Power wins, and I know your view on Zwift Power, but they didn't feel like real wins to me. I wanted there to be first across the line, beating everyone else, win.
Yeah,
and then
you want an outright win.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, boom! They were like every race I was entering, I was winning.
It starts to drop, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just happened. I just managed to cross that threshold, and then it just kept coming. And I thought, you know what, I need to step up because, I'm able to sit behind the first and the second guy and just comfortably draft.
Yep.
And then just do a breakaway or go for it, and I'd win. So
yeah, and have the enough motor to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I got these wins. I made a video about racing in C, so I tried a C race for the first time. My actual first C race was accidentally with you. And when I say accidentally, you were doing on your podcast, you do a challenge where whoever loses the quiz has to do a Zwift challenge. And you lost the quiz, and your Zwift challenge was you had to cycle off the front and pull the entire category.
For as long as I could. Yeah.
The entire race, you had to pull for as long as you could. And I thought...
Which was for about 5 kilometres.
Yeah.
It wasn't very long at all.
Yeah, and longer than I did. And I joined because I thought, I'm going to come in and support you, have some fun, see how hard this whole C... How hard can it be? I'm the king of D. Yeah. How hard can C be?
Sure, it's not that hard.
Yeah, it can't be. I'm gonna jump on, come second or third maybe. I never thought that at all, by the way. I'm just bigging it up. And I jumped on, and I had massive technical issues. I accidentally hit the wrong button. I couldn't get my camera angle back, and because I don't change the camera angle on my keyboard, I don't know how to do it. I was playing around with them. Anyway, by the time I'd managed to get the camera angle back, I'd been dropped. I'd massively rage quit, and I left. So that was my first experience of C. And I thought, excuse my language, I thought, see, I'm not doing this anymore. Back to D. Stayed in D for a little bit longer, had a couple of more wins, and I come to my senses and I thought, look, I'm not pushing myself as hard as I should be. My heart rate was average heart rate was steadily coming down over races. I wasn't filming them because I thought, what am I filming? I've won in D, I've done this, I've done that. I wasn't filming them anymore. So I thought, what's the point? I'm not pushing myself. I'm not filming them. I'm not getting any benefit from them. So I thought, I stepped back up to C, had a couple of races, filmed them, put them on YouTube, very popular. And I thought, but I'm still a Cat D rider. So then one of your subscribers, one of your followers of your podcast, Lee Cassidy.
Yep. Oh, yeah, Lee.
I'm going to give Lee a shout out on the podcast. He's probably not listening. But he sent me a message on Discord and said... Are you actually C or are you still a D? He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. I said, no, Lee, I'm still a D. And he was like, maybe you should push yourself and get yourself promoted. So he's calling me out. But the way he said it was, and it made sense, because we were kind of chewing the fat around the Zwift racing score. We're going to come on to this shortly in the next episode. And we were talking about the Zwift racing score and the benefits, the trials and tribulations, what he liked about it, what I liked about it. And he said, look, I wanted to this is what Lee was saying, I wanted to get promoted to A before they get rid of the categories, because with the new Zwift racing score, eventually, whether it be in 3 months, 3 years, whenever, they're eventually going to get rid of the categories and they're going to bring the Zwift racing score in. Yep. Have you thought about getting into C before that happens? And I was like, yeah, I had thought about it, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to be able to race in D anymore. Which was a bit of a cop-out, really.
Extra wins. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. When I'm having a bad day, I just jump on and get a win, immediately feel better.
You do.
Yeah. So I thought, but it was something that was nagging at me, and I thought, sod it, it'll make a really good video. So I went on the grade, The grade destroyed me.
Yes.
I actually dropped the worst FTP I think I've had since I started on Zwift. I got to the top of it. I don't know how it happened. I was absolutely broken. My heart rate was through the sky, but my FTP was like 50 below what it is officially. So I don't know how that happened. So I thought, sod the grade. I did a couple of C races to try and get my FTP. That didn't work. I worked out how you actually get promoted, and you've got to do it based on your 6 minute power or 5 minute power, but you aim for 6. Power. Because obviously, if you aim for 6, then it kind of makes sure you get the 5 minutes. And that's what I did. So my tactic was I hit the grade again, powered into it, and I smashed
full gas
from the beginning. I smashed 6 minutes at maximum, absolutely blew my FTP out the water. My FTP came in at 246, I think it was.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I think don't quote me on that. You'd have to watch the video. But I absolutely blew it out of the water and immediately got myself bumped up to C, which I was really happy with.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's kind of the story with C there with me.
And so how do you think you're going to find, like, and I think you've done a few C grade races already. How you're finding them, and how do you think you're going to go with the mental challenge of, potentially for the next however long, finishing towards the back of every race? I mean, is that something that you've thought about, or?
So I've quickly realised with C, there's several challenges with C for me. Firstly is I'm not getting dropped as easily as I thought I would be, unless there's a climb. So as soon as there's a climb of any distance, I can punch
Welcome to that club.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I can punch into climbs. If they're rollers, I can punch into them. So for example, douche, which is RGV reverse, you've got the intestines or the rollers for the first 5k. I can stay with the lead pack in C on that, because if I power into them, they're actually an advantage for me because I kind of push forward. Yeah. My weight helps me. But as soon as I hit the aqueduct, this is an example course. You can literally pick any course on Zwift. As soon as I hit the aqueduct, I'm dropped. And I have to sprint. I have to do 600, 700 watts to be able to get to the top of the climb.
To stay there.
Just to stay with them.
And that's the thing. You're staying with guys that are doing like 250, 300.
Yes.
They weigh like 68 kilos.
Yes.
They're 150 centimeters tall. It's like, oh man, come on.
And that just doesn't exist in D. You just don't get those riders in D. They just don't exist. Because as soon as they start on Zwift and they enter into D, they're immediately bumped. Up. Yeah. And in D, I'm not the heaviest in D at all. Whereas in C, I'm at top 3 heaviest.
You're waving that flag.
Yeah, so that's my challenge. So my challenge with that is to lose weight. I finished mid-pack, so it's not the end of the world. I'm not quite back to square one like I was in D, where I was finishing dead last when I first started out on Zwift. So, there's room for opportunity.
I think with that, and like me, you need to pick your races now. So you'll need to be a bit more discerning in terms of which race you go into. And like, for example, this month, for those that know Zwift, they've got the Z Racing series, and that's a series of races they have each month that have like a theme or a consistent aspect or a feature. So August has the punchy power. So these are all races that have climbs that are somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. Some are a bit longer, some are a bit shorter. And so I know this month I'll do them, but I know that I'm going to suffer like anything through them. And I won't do that well. I'll probably finish like top 10 in these races, only because I can't hold, 4.5, 5 watts per kilo for 5 or 7 minutes and still have enough to keep going with the front grip and sprint as well. I mean, occasionally that happens, but it's not something I can just whip out. Whereas if it's more of a flat race, or as you say, something that has some rollers or some short punches, then I'm much more suited towards those. Like New York, for example, there's some great ones there in New York. There's like the leg snapper. That's not a bad one. I don't mind that one.
That's brutal. That's absolutely.
That's a solid.
Of all the routes that you could have chosen as an example of one that you don't mind.
It's good because it's a 1 minute power effort, And I think if you know what you've got to do on a climb, so if you know that you can hold 5 minutes, and you know that climb's 5 minutes for you, then you know exactly what to expect.
Yeah, whereas the problem with the leg snapper is that even though it's just 1 minute for you, it's 1 minute for everybody, and everyone knows it's a 1 minute effort.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people can sprint for 1 minute, and
Yeah.
and where they're dropping 500 watts up this leg snapper, that's the equivalent of me doing 1,000.
Yeah. No, that's not. No, it's not easy, but but once we start getting into like the Epic Com, Alp to Zwift, all these sorts of things where it's a prolonged effort, then sure I can do it, but I'm not going to win a race doing it.
Oh no, never. I'd never get to the top of Alp to Zwift with a C-cat, never.
No, yeah. Well, like even the Volcano Com, like that's a 7 minute climb, 7-8 minute climb, and it's the same thing. Like again, it all depends on who you're racing with and where they're at and mentally, how they're feeling. But yeah, typically there's always going to be 4 or 5 riders at least that are all going to sort of just drop the front and go. And yeah, I just can't do that kind of power. But having said that though, I am taking steps to address that.
Well, I was about to come on to this actually, which is I've seen on your stream, and for anyone who hasn't checked out Nathan's channel, do you want to quickly just introduce the name of your channel?
Yep. So I've got On the Rivet. So if you go to YouTube, it is, and do a search for @On the Rivet, all one word. You should find me there. OTR is probably the logo, and that's where I've basically been streaming all my races. I think there's about 420 videos of me suffering.
So if anybody wants to, if anyone wants to sit through Nathan's Zwifting career, there's plenty of archival footage. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to say that my production values have actually increased over time. So
I will say for your streaming, your stream is second to none when it comes to production value.
Yeah, the first ones I remember doing like on a webcam, a Microsoft like a C, was it a C900, a C290 or something? Just like a little basic webcam you get for like $60, and now it's sort of I've really sort of stepped it up. But I figured if I can't be good at racing, then at least look good.
There's a thing on YouTube where Zwifters, I suppose, like my kids with Minecraft, they love just to sit and watch someone else play the game.
Yeah.
And there's a massive community out there of people that just love to watch someone race.
And suffer. And
then
suffer,
they
look at,
and criticise.
And they sort of see, and just, comment. You should do this now. I can't do this now. Well, that's what I say in my head because I can't talk.
Yeah.
But, no, you should just stand up and put some power in now. Whoa, I can't. But, so that's my YouTube channel. Go on, check it out, and drop a comment to me if you've got any questions or suggestions. All welcomed and received. You
can drop the sponsorship money across in any format you see fit. I accept Australian dollars. So the reason why I mentioned your channel is I saw that you recently streamed. I know you've gone back to C on the last one, but the video before, as we're recording this, I saw that you attempted a B category. Yes,
I did. So, look, fair warning, it's not the first time I've raced in B. So I've been upgraded to B twice throughout my time Zwifting from about 2020. I think the first time happened in about 2022. And then and that's why I asked you the question about, suffering in a race where you're going to finish in the second half of it, like the back half of the group. And it's not fun. And you sort of think, well, why am I doing this for? And eventually you do less and less racing, and then you end up going back into C, and it's like, oh, happy days again. And so that's happened twice. But now I've made a conscious effort, a decided effort, that I want to upgrade to B, and I want to try and win a race in B. Now, the question obviously is then, well, Nathan, how are you going to do this? And so what I've actually done, and I'm putting a video together on this, is for the first time ever, I've gone and recruited a personal trainer. And so we set down 8 weeks. I just finished week 5. I'm into week 6 of a specific training routine that I've been working on and doing to help with my sprinting, help with my racing and riding in general. So that came about with me sitting on the couch one night and just thinking, man, because like you were saying before, you get into this rut and you don't really progress. You sort of find this median where you're sort of sitting there, you're not getting faster, you're not really getting any better, your heart rate's sort of staying where it is, you're not producing any real results. And I've always said in my mind, it's much better to be the slowest guy in the fastest group and not the fastest guy in the slowest group.
Yeah.
So put yourself in that pain position, be the guy in the fastest group as much as it's not great, and you'll get better, you'll get faster and do that. And so I went, well, how am I going to do this? Because I've been going to the gym haphazardly. And when I say haphazardly, like 2 or 3 times a week sort of thing, but you end up doing all the exercises that's
quite a lot.
You find
that's not haphazard.
But I wasn't doing any cardio in these sessions, so it was just weights.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing the weights that you find are easy and not the weights that are hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't have anyone kind of behind you barking orders at you, keep going, don't stop, don't rest, get off your phone, all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And
taking those Instagram pics in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sharon and I would go, my wife and I would go to the gym together, and so she'd be on one machine around a corner and I'd be on another machine around the corner, and we'd be just texting each other, just stupid things. It's like, oh man, this is not working, And so the racing was kind of suffering for it a little bit. And recently I think I actually won a race on the weekend. Having settled that, I won a C grade race on the weekend, and that was good, but I hadn't really won very much. And so I went, all right, I'm going to do something different here. So I went, there's a personal trainer close to where I live, went and spoke to him, because he was sort of talking about, for guys our age, and when I say our age, I'm 50 plus, and he sort of saying you can, an 8-week challenge, and you can do what you want to do, turn yourself around, yada, yada, yada. So I called him up and said, could you make me go from a C grade rider to winning a race in B grade? And he went,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course he's going to say yes. Like, I'll come in and spend some money with me, and
of course
we'll figure it out, And so I went, fine. And then, so that was one night. And then I was all excited about doing it. And then, like, the next day I went, oh, actually, I don't really want to do this. And so I was dodging his calls and his text messages for like 2 weeks. And I was moving house at the same time. So it was all up in the air. And then, so we did all that. We moved. He kept on me. And so I finally went, oh, fuck it, I'll do it. And I went in and saw him, and we sat down, we talked about it. And he goes, well, tell me all about this stuff. And I told him about Zwift and the racing. And I said, look, I'm a mid to high end sort of a C grade rider, and I really probably should be in B, and I want to be in B, and I want to see if I can win a race in B. And I said, and I explained the different aspects of it, and the sprinting and the climbing and all these sorts of things. And I said, do you think you can design a routine, a program for me that's going to help me with doing that? He goes, yeah, for sure. And he was super excited about it too. I said, yeah. I was like, why are you excited about this for? He goes, well, because I usually have guys coming in going, oh, I want to get muscled, and I want to build my arms and my chest and all these sorts of things. He goes, this is actually making me have to think about it and put a program together that's specific to, this particular goal that you've got. And so I went, great, awesome. So we set it up, and I do a specific session once a week, and then there's 2 other strength and conditioning sessions I do to help facilitate that. And so I did the first one, and I remember thinking to myself, I've got this. I think I'm pretty fit.
Yeah.
Oh man, it bloody killed me. So I'm putting a video together of it, and I'm trying to get snippets of me in the gym, because I've got other people doing their sessions around me, so I don't want to really record things and put stuff online that people aren't.
I think people are used to that in the gym, though. I think everyone's recording everything they're doing now, aren't they?
Yeah, but this is like a private gym sort of thing. It's not like you just pay a membership, you turn up, and you've got girls with their phones out taking shots and guys with their tops off. These are people like me, and they're sort of they're trying to get back into fitness, which is awesome.
Yeah. Okay,
but I don't want to embarrass them either about it. So, I have been a bit sneaky, and I've got some shots, which is good. And so I did the first session, and it was like, when I explained to him, I said, well, there's sprinting, so we need to work out some sprinting efforts, and climbing. So I said, when there's climbing, you're often out of the saddle and you're positioning yourself over the handlebars. Within cycling, it's obvious to think that your pedal stroke is just really when you're pushing down, But if you think of your pedal stroke as your pedal goes through that sort of that clock phase where you're pressing down from sort of that 2 o'clock down to about sort of 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But then you sort of you're wiping your foot through, so you're pulling your foot through, much like you say you're wiping mud off the bottom of your shoe.
Yes.
And then you're having to lift. So that's about some 5 o'clock to about 7. And then from about 7 o'clock up to about 11, you're pulling your leg back up again. So I explained this to him. I said, and when we're climbing, a lot of the times you're out of the saddle, so I need to have good upper arm and shoulder strength for resting your body over the handlebars. And this is a tip that an old goat gave me. A guy that I used to ride with who moved to Bendigo, which is in the country here in Australia, in Victoria. And I said, mate, how do you do all these, he's an old wiry guy. And I said, how do you do all these, these climbs that you do? And you make it look so easy. And he goes, mate, all you got to do is just try and position about 75% or 70% of your body over the handlebars. And then what you end up doing is you're pushing back on your legs, on the pedals. And it's not like you're standing up on the pedals on your legs, because that's just as hard.
Yeah.
But if you've got it positioned over the handlebars and you're sort of pushing back, you're taking pressure off your legs, and you can alternate between that and sitting down, and that helps with climbing. I went, oh, bingo. So I explained that to the personal trainer too, so we devised that as well. And so the first session nearly killed me. So it was deadlifts. Mm-hmm. So like, these hero curls and Nordic curls. Curls or lunges. If anyone knows what they are, you'll know what I'm talking about. Basically, you get a rubber strap and you're on your knees, and one of them, basically you lean down till your nose touches the ground, and then you come back up on your knees again, and you use the rubber strap to help you, but oh my God, that's hard. And the reverse is the same. So you're on your knees and you're sort of leaning back onto your heels with your back until your shoulders touch the ground, and then you sit back upright again. So we're doing those. We're doing deadlifts. We're doing dips. So just where you got a dip bar and you're working on that. And then, so that was sort of the lead up. And then we had a series of 5 reps of a 30-second full-on sprint on these Aerodyne bikes. So I don't know if you know what they are, but they're basically like those wind trainers, where the handles move backwards and forwards, and it's the resistance
yes,
of the wind.
I know, and they've got like a huge fan as a wheel.
Yeah.
The front wheel's like this massive industrial strength fan that it's resistance training. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So 30-second sprint on that, get off.
They're really hard because you're having to coordinate your arms at the same time. Your arms do some of the pulling.
Yeah, and you can't get up and sort of rest on the handlebars like we would normally in a race.
Yeah.
So it's like you're working that. So 30-second sprint there, full gas, as hard as I could go, and then lunges, like 5 on each leg, and then these kettlebell leg lifts. So basically, you stick a kettlebell on the end of your foot and lift your leg up and then down. So those, and then do that 5 times. Oh my God, I was having a heart attack. It almost killed me. It was super hard.
Was you walking like John Wayne the next day?
Oh, I was exhausted, and so my legs were burning the next day. I was getting up, and I was like, oh, I could barely. You have that moment where you got to sit down. And you go, I don't know if I can actually sit down properly, or I'm going to just sort of collapse down, and then have to figure out how to get it back.
At least you know it's working, though. I'd be worried if it was the other way around. I'd be worried if the next day I was absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's right. And then so that was the first week, and then the strength and conditioning was good because that just varies. And then so we kept doing it, and then of course, so I'm doing this, and I'm restructuring my riding so that I'm doing more consistent events or races throughout the week, as opposed to, I might do a race here, or I might do a race then, or I won't do anything on the weekend. So doing that more consistently, and so trying to bring it all together, and I kept getting worse. So I kept doing these races, and I kept like just coming, I was top 10, and then it was like top 15, and it was like top 20. And so I bit the bullet and think, well, I'll do a B grade race on the weekend and see where I'm at, my levels are. And it wasn't bad. Like it was a Champs-Élysées, so there's a drag up to the Arc twice. It's only 2 laps.
Yeah.
And so there's a drag up to the Arc, which is hard with the B guys because, as you know, you got to put in just more effort to stay with them.
Yeah, they just sail away, don't they?
And then then they go around the arc, and then you still got to put effort in around the arc because they are, and then you get the descent. And so I managed to hold with them until like the second descent, and then and kind of fell off the back and formed on the group. And,
yeah, but that's impressive. The fact that you stuck with a B group for the second, twice up that climb.
Yeah,
that's
I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
and so I ended up finishing I think ninth raw results, but 8th on Zwift power, so out of 14 or 15. So I was happy I didn't come last. I set my goal to go, well, I don't want to come last, but in my mind, I thought a top 10 to finish would be good. So that's been my goal. So I'm into week 6 now. We've varied the training slightly. So we're now focusing more on my 2-minute power with some sprint intervals included. So I did that tonight, which is where I was just before we started this. And so that was tough. And again, you think, oh my God, 2-minute power or 90-second power. It's like, we're probably talking like 150% FTP. And for 90 seconds, it's like, man, I fucking hate this bike. I want to get off this bike.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it anymore.
Thing is, people don't realise though, you say to anybody, sprint for a minute, just sprint, running across a field, up a road, wherever you want to go. Just run around a running track at maximum effort. For a minute.
As hard as you can go, yeah.
Most people can't do it. 99% of the population won't be able to do it. On the bike, same thing. Get on the bike and you just high cadence sprint for a minute.
Yep.
It's
head down.
Yep.
Yep.
It's tough. It's hard.
Yeah, and because we've got a timer up on the display, and so I know what it's like in Zwift as well. It's the same thing. You think I'm sprinting for this finish line. I'm sprinting for this banner. And it's like 300 meters, 400 meters, however far away it is. And so you start going full gas, and you look down, you look up, and you're still 300 meters away from it. You go, it's getting further away.
Yeah.
And it feels like the same thing with the timer. The timer just stops. Every time I look down, the timer stops, and then I look up again, and that's when it keeps going.
Yeah. So how many weeks have you got left of this? Because this sounds interesting. Sounds exciting. How many weeks you got left of your training?
So I'm into the 6th week.
Yeah.
This week I've done my 6th specific training session. That was tonight. I've got 2 more weeks after this week, and then hopefully by that stage I'll be in a good enough position that I can try and go for a win. Now, unfortunately,
in B, go for a win in B.
In B, yeah, that's the whole idea.
So by the end of August,
you're
going to have a B win under your belt.
That's the idea.
Wow.
That's the idea. Now, not saying that's going to happen, but that's what I'm aiming for.
And I was
going to say that
you've got to have a target.
Yeah, you inspired me with a lot of things you've done. I've taken some inspiration from your challenges and how you've approached them, and so I thought, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to knuckle down. I'm going to try my hardest to make this happen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, then I found out that the Z Racing series, the races for this month, have all got climbs in them.
I was going to say, the Z Racing series this month is brutal. It's. I took one look at it and thought, I'm pleased I've got a running event coming up soon because I can go out running instead of cycling on Zwift. Because it just looks horrendous. So good luck with getting your B win climbing. Yeah,
I'll have to be very specific. I think I might go look for... And here's something I was going to mention before. I know we're going to finish this session up, but here's something I was going to mention before. Look, the Crit City in Zwift.
Yes.
If you look for C grade races on that, that's an awesome route and race to improve your power, because it's basically, if it's like, I think it's typically that's sort of 8 laps. There might be less, there might be more.
Yeah.
But 8 laps, it's basically an 8 session, like an 8 hit session, a high intensity interval training.
Yep.
And that really helps with developing that power for the longer races. So you can go hard for like a minute and then recover and then go hard again for another minute. Yeah, and that's where the trick is. But
I do love the crit races. They were the first. The crit races were probably the races that got me addicted to Zwift. Downtown Dolphin, Glasgow Crit City. They were the races that I enjoyed initially because they would just smash and grab. You can go all out, get a good sweat on, absolutely exhausted. Smash your heart rate through your head. There's something addictive about that.
Yeah, no, that's where I learned my racing on, and that's I think where I got my first win, And we're also got upgraded my first time as well. So yeah, Crit City for me is Downtown Dolphin is my favourite. I know others will argue that the Bell Lap is the better version, but I think Downtown Dolphin's the way to go, because you get that up Brick Lane, you go to that short little punch climb up there.
I like that climb.
But then you got the rollers going back. The dirt rollers,
Yeah.
I always find to be quite easy, and so I get a nice recovery there before you hit the sprint. So
Yeah.
there's the tip. Oh, and by the way, if anyone's listening, so the trick with Crit City is if to go for the sprint, this is the Downtown Dolphin. There's a hairpin that just comes hairpin before you go into the finish banner. If you've got an aero power up, you hit that on the second last tree on the right. Okay, so that's the perfect time to hit it, and it expires about maybe a couple of seconds before you hit the banner. So that's where you got to fire it. There you go.
Inside tips. So anyone listening to this, you didn't think that you'd be finding out a guaranteed winning tip for Crit City on Zwift.
Correct. There you go.
There we go.
So all three people that actually know that went, oh, thankfully,
one thing I'm going to start saying from season 2, that with my podcast, if you listen to my podcast, there's probably going to be a couple of things that I can guarantee. I'll guarantee you'll learn something new that you never knew before, and I guarantee at least one laugh out loud moment. So I'm not sure whether that I'm not sure which of those that falls under, but yeah, there's a guaranteed you never knew before tip from Nathan.
Yep, there you go.
So look, it's good timing.
That's about.
Yeah, so
that's about it. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, good timing. It sounds like a good point to end this episode. I just want to say a big thank you if you've made it this far. This episode is slightly longer than normal, but it's been such a fun episode to talk with you, Nathan. We talked about.
No, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. We've talked about your fitness. In general, your fitness journey. Fascinating to hear that you've got a trainer. Have you announced that? Have you spoke about it on your podcast?
No.
So in the next episode, Nathan's going to remain with me, and in episode 8, which is going to be the last episode of this season, unbelievably, we're going to talk about our Zwifting setups. We're going to talk a little bit more detail around the Zwift price increase, which now the dust has settled after they announced it at the beginning of the summer. We're going to talk about how we feel about that now that we've kind of got a couple of months under our belts with that. We're going to talk about the new Zwift Ride, which is the new entry-level Zwifting bike that you can buy for individuals that want to get into Zwift for the first time, or even those that just want an extra bike setup. We're going to talk about the future, what we think the future of Zwift are going to be, and then we're going to talk about the Tour de France, our views of the Tour de France, because if you listened to my last episode number 6, you will realise how much I was addicted to watching the Tour de France, and I genuinely don't know what to do with myself now it's ended. Thank God the Olympics have come along. So we're going to talk about some of the Olympics as well, specifically the TT cycling, because we're in day 2 of the Olympics. There's not a lot to cover off. But I know Nathan will be excited to talk about that, because I think there was an Antipodean win, a gold medal in the women's TT. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we've got a couple of other things that you've achieved, Nathan, that we're going to talk about in episode 8, the last episode. So I'm not going to go into graphic detail now. Please stay tuned for next week's episode. I know you're going to love it. Nathan's going to be back, and we're going to be covering those events. Nathan, anything you want to add?
No, I can't wait for the next one. It's awesome. Again, thanks so much for having me on, Ryan. It's been fantastic talking to you. And I'm really excited to keep on this.
Thank you, Nathan. Guys, thank you for listening to part 1, episode 7. See you in part 2. Cheers, guys.